Council of Governments Board of Directors. Great to have you all here. We will go ahead and begin, if we may, with a flag salute. And I'm going to ask Director Chenier if you would lead us in the pledge, please.
Sure, thank you. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic
for which stands
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, Lynette, if you would take the roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Just a quick item of housekeeping before I begin with roll call. Just wanted to remind everyone to please mute their devices when they're not speaking. And then for members of the public who are viewing the board meeting today, instructions on how to make a public comment are included on the agenda. All right, I'll get started. Director Baines.
Present.
Bernasconi.
Here.
Bradford.
Here.
Branscombe.
Happy to be here.
Houlihan.
Here.
Burris. Absent. Clark Kretz.
Here.
Desmond.
Here.
Frericks.
Here.
Frost. Absent. Gallardo.
Here.
Gog.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Present.
Harris.
I'm here. Good morning.
Joyner.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Kozlowski.
Here.
Lozano.
Here.
Middleton.
Here.
New.
Here.
Sander. Absent. Zaragoza.
Here.
Saylor.
Here.
Chenier.
Here.
Spokley.
Here.
Stallard.
Here.
Soon.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
West.
Here.
Vice Chair Jennings.
Here.
Chair Gore.
Here.
And ex officio member Benny Paul.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. And I see that we also had Director Frost join us as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to our next item, which is public communications. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the board on an item that is not on our agenda. Lynette, did we have any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, well, that is easy. We will now go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. And these items can be taken with one motion unless anyone wants to remove an item for discussion. Would anyone like to do so? Or anyone from the public like to move an item from the consent agenda?
There's no comments from the public.
All right,
Move to approve by Baines.
Second.
I think I heard a second from Director Gog. Let's
Yes.
take roll call. Or
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Director Baines.
Aye.
Bernasconi.
aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Branscombe.
Aye.
Houlihan.
Aye.
Burris. Absent. Clark Kretz.
Aye.
Desmond.
Aye.
Frericks.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
Gallardo.
Aye.
Gog.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Joyner.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Kozlowski.
Aye.
Lozano.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
New.
Aye.
Sander.
Aye.
Zaragoza.
All right. Aye.
Thank you. Saylor.
Aye.
Chenier.
Aye.
Spokley.
Yes.
Stallard.
Aye.
Soon.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
West.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jennings.
Yes.
And Chair Gore.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, and I skipped something. So before we go to our action item, I'd like to turn this over to James. He has a brief introduction he'd like to make.
Thank you, Chair Gore. Yeah, I appreciate this opportunity. Director Stollard had mentioned in my executive director's report, I was just highlighting some of the changes, the transitions, the retirements, the new faces. As you know, one of our more recent retirements was Bruce Riesenbeck, who you honored a couple of months ago. But I'm delighted, and some of you may know her, to introduce you to Yanmei Oh, who is going to be our data and analysis manager. We promoted from within, and we were delighted to do that for a number of reasons. Yanmei has been with us for 12 years, but is going to be ably stepping in to Bruce's role. And we're delighted to have her in that role. You'll be seeing a lot more of her in the years to come. So I just wanted to give a warm welcome to the full board for Yanmei.
Wonderful. Thank you, James, and congratulations on this new opportunity. I'm sure you will be stretched and you'll grow just a little bit because this is not an easy challenge. So
Thank you.
All right, great. We will now move on to item 11, which is the election of our 2022 board chair and vice chair. I'm going to pass this over to Director Spokley, who is the chair of the nominating committee. And I want to first just say thank you to all of you who served on the nominating committee. Appreciate your time. And with that, Director Spokley.
Thank you very much, Chair Gore. I appreciate that. I also want to say thanks to all of the members on the nominating committee for all of their help in getting through this selection process. That's Director Clark Kretz, Director Frericks, Director Gallardo, Director Saylor, Director Chenier, and Director Stollard. Thank you all very much. Most of all, though, I want to thank Lynette, trying to schedule all of our busy calendars and get us all on a call together was no small challenge, and she did a great job with that. And then lastly, the nominees for vice chair. It takes some guts to throw your name in the hat, and we went through a little interviewing process to get to know the candidates a little bit better than we already knew them. So thank you all to those who stepped up. That would be Director Kennedy, Director Middleton, Director Saragosa, and Director Soon. You're all very, very active. I think you all have a very bright future in leadership on this board. So if you weren't selected, don't take that the wrong way. There's certainly opportunities coming in the future for all of you. With that, the nominating committee settled on Director Kennedy as the vice chair for the SACOG board in 2022. And obviously our previous vice chair will be stepping up as the chair, and that's Director Jennings. So I guess with that, I would make the motion that we nominate Director Jennings as the next chair of the SACOG board for 2022.
I second that.
Desmond seconds. Excellent.
I heard many seconds, so thank you. I want to give an opportunity if there's anyone who would like to comment on this item or open it up to public comment as well.
There's no public comment.
All right, well then seeing none, looks like we have an opportunity to vote for Rick Jennings to be our chair for 2022 and Patrick Kennedy to be vice chair for 2022. And we'll take a roll call, please, Lynette.
And I'm sorry, Bonnie, is that one motion for both
You
of
know
them?
what? And is that
Bonnie.
on one motion? I think, was that all in one motion, Matt?
I was going to do them separately, Bonnie.
Okay, well, go ahead and do it separately. You tell me what the first one was because I didn't hear it.
First one was chair being Rick Jennings, nomination for Rick Jennings to be our next chair.
All right, somebody give me a second again.
I second that.
All right, I heard Chenier. So all those in favor, let's say aye.
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 Opposition? Wonderful.
Chair Gore,
Yes.
this is Lynette. I do need to do a roll call vote quickly.
It doesn't say that on my notes. It said
Sorry about that. Yeah.
the way you said. All right. So I guess we have to do it by a roll call vote. So let's all go ahead and say it quickly.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Houlihan,
Aye.
Burris, absent Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski. I'll come back to you, Director Kozlowski. Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Saragosa,
Aye.
Sailor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Stokely,
Yes.
Stallard. I'll come back to you, Director Stallard soon.
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jennings,
Yes.
Chair Gore,
Aye.
and Director Kozlowski, if you're there, could you indicate your vote, please? Okay, I'll mark you absent. And Stallard?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Lynette. I would like now also to make a motion to select Patrick Kennedy as the vice chair for the 2022 SACOG board.
I second that.
Second.
We'll give the second to Director Gog and we'll take a roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Houlihan,
Aye.
Burris, absent Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye. Sorry.
thank you. Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Kozlowski, absent Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Saragosa,
Aye.
Sailor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Stokely,
Yes.
Stallard,
Aye.
Soon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jennings,
Yes.
and Chair Gore.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations to you both. I really appreciate your willingness to step into leadership. And we have a great group of people who serve on this board. So thank you both. And I look forward to next January when I can pass this on to Mr. Jennings. All right. So let's get into some of our other items for this morning. We'll move to item 12, which is the release of the draft regional trail network for the Sacramento Region Parks and Trails Strategic Development Plan. And we are going to pass this over to Victoria Cacciatore to present the item.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Gore for that introduction. I'm Victoria Cacciatore. I am the project manager for the Sacramento Region Parks and Trails Strategic Development Plan, which is our regional envisioning of a dynamic system of interconnected trails and parks across El Dorado, Placer, Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba counties. And today I am asking you to authorize the public release of the draft network so we may share it with a wider audience of partners to ensure that we're meeting the goals of the network and identifying the network that will best meet the needs of our region's residents. So I do have a presentation that I will be sharing that we should see now. So starting at the beginning of this plan, late 2019, early 2020, through the analysis of close to 80 local plans, we identified that there are 6 foundational goals that could guide our network development for a regional connected trail system. These 6 goals that you see on the screen were the top goals that rose from all of the local plans, regardless of whether you are a small town, a large county, on the east of the region or on the west of the region, north or south. And there are, excuse me, sorry, a bit of a frog in my throat. So these were the goals that rose to the top from across all of the counties and cities in our region. And if there's one thing that we learned, even though all of these goals relate to trail access and what people use trails to connect to, there are many different ways to fulfill these goals, even if we could all agree that these are 6 things that our regional network is working towards. So to identify the regional ways that we measure progress towards these 6 goals, we used the spring 2021 survey results and our conversations with local community partners and staff to develop draft performance metrics that would help focus our interpretation of what it means to have a trail that supports economic vitality, or what it means to have a trail network that supports health. So the attachment A that is part of this item shows the different ways that we are proposing to measure how the regional trail network could support these 6 goals. It's also important to note that our partners identified that of these 6 goals, based on how we're still suffering impacts from the pandemic, the goals of environmental justice, of health, and economic vitality held the strongest potential to create a regionally beneficial trail network that would serve the needs of residents and simultaneously help us recover from pandemic impacts. So given that those were the top 3 goals from our partners, I wanted to go a little deeper into talking about how those will impact our trail identification. So looking at how trails can support increased health. There are many studies and research on trail networks throughout the United States that show how proximity to a trail increases the likelihood that you'll use one. And our envisioned trail network will use that information to identify how the trail network can support healthy lifestyles by making the healthy choice the easy choice. This health impact pyramid is adapted from the Center for Disease Control's health impact pyramid. They normally use this in discussion about public health policy. And while when you're talking about public health policy, changing the context could be something like tobacco taxation or laws prohibiting smoking in public places. But when you're talking about applying that same idea to a regional trail network, could be increasing the number of people that are close to trails so they can use those for their for a number of purposes, whether it's a trip to the grocery store or a place where they can have a more protected environment for a bike trip or a walk trip. Our measurement for this was to increase the percentage of people living within a half mile of a connected trail, which we use a measurement of half a mile or longer. We wanted to increase the percentage of people living within a half mile of a trail from 41%, which was our base case analysis, trail access in 2020. Want to use this network to increase the number of households, or the percentage of households in the region, to 61% within a half mile of a longer trail. Also, part of our analysis of who has access to trails and what that looks like across the region, we found that we do not have equitable access to trails in our region. This is similar to what you see throughout the rest of the state, and the the nation also. But from our analysis of who has access to existing trails, we found that lower income residents are 30% less likely to have access to those connecting trails than the rest of the households in our region. So when you combine that with the travel data that we have from our long range plan, the MTP SES, that shows that residents in disadvantaged communities bike, walk, and take transit at higher rates than other residents of the region. Our region's inequitable trail access could also mean that lower income residents do not have the same low stress, high comfort, safer access that's provided by trails. And so when we're looking at what does it mean to have a regional trail network that would support environmental justice, the goal that you reviewed earlier this year is that we would eliminate the disparity in access to trails based on income. So it shouldn't matter if you're in a lower income household or not, you should still have access to these connecting trails that are going to provide you safe access and comfortable access and opportunities for a healthy lifestyle. And an area that's been of interest to so many people is as we are looking to make our way out of the pandemic impacts and also some of the Great Recession impacts that our region never fully bounced back from. Wanted to have a better understanding of what we're aiming for with a regional trail network that supports the goal of economic vitality. From our working with your staff and community serving partners, they underscored that the presence of a trail is not enough. It needs to provide you access to something you want to get to. And we coupled that information about underscoring what the trail accesses with what we learned from our survey earlier this year, where we saw that people were not focused on having trail access to work or school, but they had a strong interest in using trails to get to the places where they could experience their communities with their family, their friends, and their neighbors. So using this demonstration of values and coupling it with the visions from your local plans and input from local agency staff and community partners to identify the ways that regional trail networks could support economic vitality in a way that's going to be meaningful for our region's residents. You have two different ways that this is being measured throughout the region based on your community context. One is connecting people to the social gathering places where they can enjoy time with their family, friends, and their community, whether it's to go view fireworks at 4th of July or to share a cup of coffee with someone that you're hoping to catch up with in a socially distanced way. But also connecting trail access to the places that make our region unique. That's the rivers, the bodies of water, the mountains, the open spaces. And so our draft regional network is aiming to make these connections with trails. And on the draft network before you today, if you look at the web map version, you'll see a sampling of the community enhancing destinations that were mentioned in our conversations with partners, and then also some of the destinations that were from the spring survey about where people wanted to get to using trails. So in the draft regional network that is before you today, it leans as much as we could on the established local planning documents. So everything that we have from local adopted existing and planned trails, whether that's a bicycle transportation master plan, a trail master plan, or a circulation element in your general plan. We identified that there are 654 miles of trails that are on the ground today and people can use them. That's a combination of your paved trails that are acceptable to your bikes with skinnier tires, and then also some informal trails that, based on the context, it may not make sense to pave them. Say if you have a dirt a dirt trail that is very popular with outdoor enthusiasts. If you pave it, you take away everything that makes that trail special. So we have a smaller number of the informal trails, mostly in the more mountainous regions of our of our region. We also identified 1,200 miles of planned trails in the regional trail network that have the potential to meet our most basic goal of connecting all communities with trails. So with these, we got pretty far along identifying a regionally connected trail network. And we also learned that there's a lot of work that's in progress at the local level where there are potential connections that, maybe they're being discussed locally and they can help us complete the network. So we have 95 miles of trail study corridors. And these are mostly that concepts that are bookmarked for future study, but they're not in the current plan. But the local agency identified them as something that they have as a work in progress. Maybe they have it flagged for inclusion in their next bicycle transportation plan or an upcoming trail plan, or some other way they've been talking about it with their councils, their supervisors, or they've heard public support for these connections. There are also some instances of trail study corridors where it's something that is in a local plan, but there are also a lot of known challenges, such as right-of-way challenges to implementing the trail, but the local agency still felt that it should be included in the trail network. Even with these two categories of trails and possible connections, we still have gaps in our network and fall short of our goal to connect communities across all 6 counties. And so the trail network that is before you today also has some SACOG identified options that we want to look at more and identify what the best path is to move forward to make these needed connections. So there's 69 miles of potential connecting corridors, and then also the areas that are needing more study to identify how they'll be able to connect to the network and provide access to their residents to these places that are going to support the regional vision. And so that's what we have today, and we're looking to drill down until we have the locally supported best paths forward to create a regional trail network, and a final version that would be brought back to you in March. So for today, the Transportation Committee unanimously recommended that the board release the draft regional trail network for public review and further coordination with partners. If you were to approve this, SACOG would accept input on the draft trail network through February 1st. We would look to hold a public webinar on January 13th. We want to use this time to check back with our community serving partners about the network and whether it's meeting all of the goals and outcomes that we discussed, since our work to date has been focused with departments of transportation, parks departments, and departments of or public works departments to identify what could actually be placed on this map. And we would also be asking our partners to share the draft trail network through their channels and to see how much input we can get as we also work to identify the best paths forward for the potential connecting corridors and remaining gaps. So with that, I will take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Victoria. Any questions for her on the draft trails network? I do have one question, Victoria. And so you said we'll do a public session in January, January 13th. It would be great if you could share that link information to the board so that we can share that to our communities. I think that would be terrific. And it looks like I now have a couple of questions. So Director Gog and then Director Sander.
Thank you, Chair. It's a great presentation. The trail network that we have built through our town is really beautiful. It has enhanced our community. It was old railroad tracks and it was really ugly and you can walk on it, do nothing on it. And now it's beautiful. You can ride your bike there. You can walk there. It cleans up people's backyard. It's really brightened the town up, and it's kind of amazing that the people in town are, a lot of our people are kind of like farm workers. They get most of their exercise out on the farm and they come home and they don't want to get out of the house, but we have new people coming in all the time and they enjoy all this. And it's nice to see people walking their dog or man and wife walking down, or the kids walking down and enjoying these trails. And I can't thank SACOG enough for helping out the little cities like Live Oak, and especially using that picture as an example. It's really makes me proud to be part of SACOG and just be part of the network and part of the beautification. So thank you so much for everything.
Director Gog. Director Sander?
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. I just think this is really important work we're undertaking here. We in Rancho Cordova got a grant through SACOG, improved a segment of trail that ran along a rail line that went from Folsom Boulevard and the Mather Field Light Rail Station to Mather Airport. It bridges over Highway 50, a railroad bridge over Highway 50, and the trail, except for that bridge, went beside the tracks, not on them. Cost a lot. It's highly amenitized, but the use of that trail is amazing. It goes through an older neighborhood. Frankly, they could have walked there before, but the surface wasn't really prepared for it and it wasn't that pleasant. And after this trail went in, you see strollers and wheelchairs and dogs and joggers and walkers and kids learning to ride their bikes and all kinds of stuff along that trail that's running basically behind people's houses in this old rail corridor. It crosses streets in several locations. It has to have a positive quality of life impact on that neighborhood. And I know it adds to the value of the neighborhood just because of its appearance. Other studies have shown that even if the majority of people don't use a bike trail, they like to see it. It has a positive effect on how they view a neighborhood. So there's a real benefit there at that level, and from an equity point of view, because getting these sorts of amenities to old neighborhoods should be a priority for us. The challenge we've got, and this really falls into SACOG's wheelhouse as a transportation agency, is making the appropriate connections for alternative means of getting to work or making those trips. So the great example I've got locally, and the problem I'm going to illustrate here, is that our jurisdictions don't necessarily talk to each other. And this mechanism at SACOG is how we can do that with regard to where these trails go. So in our case, Rancho Cordova, some data we saw here a couple months ago said we are, other than downtown Sacramento, we're the most likely destination or origin of a trip in the Sacramento region. And it's because we have so many jobs in Rancho Cordova. But there are limited ways to get to those jobs. So an example would be, we've got this wonderful American River Parkway with the multi-use trail that runs its length. And we are building connections to it, to our job center in Rancho Cordova, bit by bit, including the part I just talked about. But there is another large barrier besides Highway 50 we have to deal with, and that's the river. And so immediately on the other side of the river, from Hagan Park in Rancho Cordova, where Chase Drive sort of runs into the river, is an area of, I guess you'd probably describe it as Carmichael, Fair Oaks, that has no access to the American River Parkway, except by a bridge that's not really accessible in one direction and one that's quite a ways away in the other direction. And so it cuts off this entire section of the county from being able to easily or quickly or directly bike to a job in Rancho Cordova. It also denies all those residents over there access to the American River Parkway and all of its wonders. The most beautiful segment, of course, being Rancho Cordova. All those folks are denied that. And no one's planning for how we would deal with this. A bridge, at Hagan Park that would connect the region's premier, I would say, science learning site at the FEO Nature Center with the parkway, with the golf course right there, and with all the amenities on the Rancho Cordova side, like Soberborn Farms. All we need is someone to talk about a bridge. But has the county brought it up to us? Not really. Have we brought it up to them? Not really. Why not? Because there's no discussion going on about how we connect to each other through trails, even in cases where it's going to have a numerical impact on how people can get to work in alternative modes. So I would push SACOG to say, let's find some metrics to apply to these things so that rather than me just talking about this bridge, we can say, boy, that ranks high in terms of the number of people we could give access to something. That would be, I think, really useful for us. So I commend this effort, but I view it as just a start. There's a lot more to be done here.
Thank you, Director Sander, for your comments. Appreciate that. Director Thomas.
Great comments from my fellow directors, and I too want to echo my sentiments on how important this study is, and appreciate SACOG taking this up and helping us connect with each other. Certainly our trail network has tremendous economic benefits as well, and is so important to our rural regions, not just our urban regions. In El Dorado County, as in many of our other rural areas, we have lots of communities that have a lot of space and land between them. And through our trail network, not only does it invite, the public and our residents to enjoy a healthy lifestyle, it also helps connect our communities in really important ways that not only drive it can drive agritourism as we move our trails into some of our agricultural areas, but allow folks to experience different communities that they might not get in their car and experience. So really important study, and look forward to this continuing.
Thank you, Director Thomas. Any other comments, input from my colleagues?
Sure. Or can I make just a couple of comments? We've had this obviously in the Transportation Committee, as all of our Transportation Committee members know, a number of times, and Victoria has done a fantastic job just helping you all understand what we're trying to accomplish here. And I really appreciate Director Sanders' comments. If you've seen the map, if you haven't seen the map, you should look at the map, right? Because the notion that we could connect from the Tahoe Rim, Director Thomas, all the way down, there's the old Pony Express Trail right through El Dorado County. The notion that we could get down to Isleton on an existing railroad right-of-way and connect the Delta to the main core of the region, out to Yolo County, across the Causeway and to the Capay Valley, up in Yuba Sutter and to the Buttes, as Director Gog was talking about, taking those connections and truly making them into a network. And Director Jennings' real push to get the Sacramento River Trail and Parkway and to take some of those fences down the levee, but also to connect places like Meadowview and Valley High so they have access to these incredible opportunities that we have in our region. So the notion of this is, I think, remarkable. And I think it is the thing I want you to keep in mind as this plan moves forward. And I want you to keep asking us not just what it looks like on a map, but frankly, how we're going to make it happen. But here's the challenge. This has actually been an incredibly challenge for all the ways in which this sells itself. It is and I think, again, Director Sander put his finger on it. If I'm just looking at a mile of trail, I think, well, that's a mile of trail. I have other priorities in my jurisdiction. And if you just look inside your jurisdiction, that may be true and it may be understandable. But that mile of trail is actually something that connects tens of thousands of people, right, to the parks and recreation and essential destinations and places they need to go. And so in the next few months, as we land this, and Victoria showed you those bubbles sort of disappearing, and we want this to be this is not a SACOG plan, this is a regional plan. But I think the back and forth with your jurisdiction, special districts, are going to be critical, because those connections, it may be that, well, that's not a priority for us, but it means the difference. It makes or breaks whether we truly have a regional network. And so stay tuned, I guess I'm saying, and we will let you know if in particular we need your help. And again, Director Sander put his finger on it. It's actually really interesting. These trails have been sometimes on the books for a really long time, and one jurisdiction may think, we're planning all this way, all the way to our border, and that next jurisdiction will pick it up and continue it. And lo and behold, actually, that is not necessarily what has been planned more recently. So the challenges are ahead of us, as wonderful as this is and exciting. And I think we're gonna need your help. And essentially, this is going to call into question what it means to actually cooperate across borders and across a region and have a vision that not we can just put on paper, but we can actually make good on. So I think it's a remarkable and amazing project. I also think if we can get this done, we are in line for a lot of funding that is coming for pilot projects and pilot regions to develop these kinds of connected trail networks. So I'm really looking forward to the next steps on this. And again, I congratulate Victoria and our whole team on this. It's done a ton of outreach already that you may not pick up entirely upon, but is embedded within that map and everything she's shown you. So thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate that feedback. And yes, of course, call on us, especially when it comes to having to address working with special districts or areas that might not otherwise engage as we have opportunity to move some of these trails forward. Let's see, I want to make sure I open it up to public comment. Any comments from the public?
No public comment.
All right, then we are being asked to approve the release of the draft regional trail network. May I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second. That.
I heard a motion from Guerrero, second from Gog, and roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Houlihan,
Aye.
Burris,
Aye.
Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner,
Aye.
Kennedy. I'll come back to Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Saragosa,
Aye.
Saylor,
Aye.
Chenier,
Aye.
Spokley,
Yes.
Stallard,
Aye.
Soon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jennings,
Yes.
Chair Gore.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate you and your team's hard work. We're going to move to item 13, which is our 2021 annual highlights. Casey Lazan is going to go ahead and present the item.
Thank you, Chair Gore. Good morning, Casey Lazan, your Deputy Executive over Programs. I believe Renee will be pulling up a slideshow. There we go. At the beginning of this year, you were presented a regional progress report on economic, demographic, housing, and transportation indicators of where the region is at compared to 3 regional goals of vibrant places, economic prosperity, and connected communities. You also, at the beginning of the year, received an overview on SACOG's 2021 work plan, which is in service or pursuit of these 3 goals. Next slide, please. So I am happy to share the highlights of SACOG's work this year towards those goals. Next slide, please. And I'm running through this by those 3 goals. So our first goal of vibrant places means the region's growth patterns enhance the vitality of existing communities and fosters multimodal mobility. So our progress this year, next slide, please, was quite significant. After 3 years of advocacy, including by members of this board, the state of California funded Green Means Go with $38 million to boost infill housing in locally designated green zones across the Sacramento region. Next slide, please. Complementary to Green Means Go, 27 jurisdictions in the region adopted housing elements on time, that is with higher RHNA numbers and a suite of new state requirements to meet. This was done by the hard work of you and your local communities and supported by SACOG with planning funding from SACOG's Regional Early Action Planning Grant Program That was first time funding from the state for housing planning. SACOG distributed $4.5 million in non-competitive and competitive grants to accelerate housing in the region. Next slide. SACOG also created the Mind the Gap Housing Initiative to frame our region's housing supply gap and offer up local policy changes that can help to close it. And you rounded out the year with just last month reporting out in response to Chair Gore's challenge on what local policy changes your community is currently pursuing. Next slide. Our second goal of economic prosperity means a diversified economy for the region, including 3 key economic clusters of ag and food, health sciences, and innovative mobility. This goal also means development that provides high quality of life for all, and that's attractive to both new and existing businesses. So here's our progress this year. Next slide, please. The Prosperity Partnership completed a plan in 2020 for inclusive economic recovery and growth. That plan now, this year, put the region in a great position ready to apply for implementation funding to a new state community economic resilience fund. That's a $600 million program for planning and implementation. Next slide. The Youth Leadership Academy finished out its 3rd year, graduating 70 students. So YLA has now served 130 students since its launch, and next year's cohort will add 41 new students. Next slide. In its 2nd year, the Race Equity Inclusion Working Group of the board added 10 public members to provide diverse perspectives to the group's work. And this year, all members have been gaining an understanding of SACOG and will be helping to shape a racial equity action plan for the agency next year. Next slide. In 2021, SACOG and local stakeholders launched development of the Coordinated Rural Opportunities Plan, or CROP. This Department of Conservation funded effort will identify supportive infrastructure and investment needs for the region's agricultural and working lands clusters. Next slide. In its 2nd year after relaunching, the Mega Region Working Group took a big step toward a shared vision for mobility by endorsing the Mega Region Dozen. This is a bundle of 12 transportation projects that connect the 3 regions of the Bay Area, Sacramento, and Northern San Joaquin and beyond. Next slide. The region was also awarded 2 significant federal grants this year. One was $86 million of an infra grant towards improving one of those Mega Region Dozen projects, the I-80 corridor from Davis to Sacramento. And a second award was awarded $1.2 million of a RAISE grant for intercity bicycle and pedestrian trails in Yolo County. Next slide. Our 3rd goal of connected communities means a better connected region through safe, well-maintained, and a multimodal transportation network, and an abundance of clean mobility options that provide for the efficient movement of people and goods. Here was our progress this year. Next slide. To promote remote work as an option into the future beyond this pandemic, SACOG completed a regional telework pilot with 11 employers, and from those findings, developed a toolkit to assist employers in creating telework policies. Next slide. This year, big data provided big insights. Staff applied a big data pilot project to the next generation transit strategy, to a screening map for local environmental analysis of projects, and to report out on traffic throughout the pandemic. Next slide. And now we're going to be talking about quite a bit of funding and delivery of projects. Early in the year, the board approved $198 million in competitive funding awards for 75 transportation projects across the 4-county region in our 2021 funding round. Those projects focused on maintenance and modernization of transit systems, transformative transportation projects, and community design programs, all important elements to implement the region's long-range transportation plan. Next slide. This year, SACOG's project delivery team also earned the region $22 million in additional obligation authority for transportation projects. That's $22 million more in federal funds for future funding rounds. The team also programmed $32 million in funds borrowed from other regions to deliver projects early in this year. The region had 2 notable SB1 funding awards from the state, $67 million for the Placer Sacramento Gateway Plan Phase 1 project. Next slide. That was a partnership with PCTPA, Sacramento County, Sacramento Regional Transit, and Caltrans District 3. And a second award for $27 million for the Capital Region Freight Improvement Project, which was a partnership also of PCTPA, Sacramento County, and District 3. Next slide. Looking at the federal level, the $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, was signed into law and opens significant opportunities for transportation projects in the region. Sacramento, or SACOG, is leading conversations about transportation funding strategies to help partners understand that bill. One thing we see is critical: regional collaboration on project prioritization will be so important to approaching competitive funding programs in this bill. Next slide, please. In terms of clean mobility, SACOG partnered with the Sacramento Air District, SMUD, the SAC-RT, to publish the Sacramento Area Zero Emission Vehicle Deployment Strategy, which calls for investment of $967 million to accelerate deployment of electric vehicles and zero emission buses and trucks. Next. On transit specifically, your board adopted the next generation transit strategy for how to build a transit system that provides a seamless user experience, expand usefulness of service, and reduce mobility disparities. And finally, next, please, rounding out the modes of connectivity with trails, the action item you just took. More than 3,000 community members shared where they want to bike and walk throughout the region to inform SACOG and local staff to develop that draft regional trail network, and we are looking very forward to the finalization of that plan next year. So last slide. I hope that recap of the year left you excited and not dizzy. As staff put this report together, we saw so much accomplished by this board's efforts, the partnership of local agencies and organizations in the region, and we are looking forward to more of what this region can accomplish together in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey, very much. It made me a little bit dizzy because the team has done a lot of work and a lot more work to do in 2022, right? With additional funding coming for transportation, transit, other projects. So thank you very much. Any questions of Casey? Any comments? All right, I think we're all agreeing, great job. So really appreciate that update. And I want to thank my colleagues for just helping us move these efforts along. Now we're going to move on to, oh, I don't know if we have any public comment. I guess I should ask if we have any public comment on this item before I move on.
No public comment.
And so we do have a couple of reports, and I don't want people to get off the board meeting just yet because we still have a little bit of time left because we're going to do some report out from some of our committee chairs. So we'll move into item 14, some report outs. A couple of things from me. First of all, I just want to say thank you to my colleagues who were able to join us for our little reception last week. I will share with you that I learned a few things about some of our colleagues. That is, I learned that Director Branscombe is much taller than I ever would have guessed. Learned that Portia Middleton's mom is a dynamo, and I can see how she managed to raise 9 children because she did a good job of corralling all of us. Jill Gallardo has the best shoes ever. And if you see her at an event, especially if it's a fun event, check out Jill's shoes. And then I learned that James managed to stay in shape for the last 20 months. And I hats off to him because I don't think I stayed in near as good shape. So I wanted to share that with you all. It was really nice to see some of you in person. I do look forward to seeing more of you in person this next year, but I appreciate those who were able to join us. I also want to say thank you to Vice Chair Jennings for the book conversation discussion that we had as a part of the Race, Equity, and Inclusion group. I had an opportunity to talk about the book, The Sum of Us, and it was really good dialogue, very thought-provoking and insightful. So I really appreciate the time that you all spent. I think we probably could have spent all day having a discussion, but I think it was well done. And if any of you don't have a copy of the book, SACOG did make it available to us, and I'd encourage you to reach out to Lynette or James and get a copy and happy to share that with you. All right, so, oh, another important thing, I wanted to congratulate Director Sander. He is now the second vice president of the National League of Cities. So that is great news, David. Congratulations, stepping up and taking on more. That's terrific. You will represent California well in your role.
David, is it true that you're the only member on that entire board from California?
I think that is currently true. At one time we had maybe 4 or 5. That probably represents a little overrepresentation, but right now I think I'm it.
Wow.
Sort of an unusual situation.
An extreme distinction for you.
But you do feel the way this works is you're elected second vice president, then kind of automatically promoted to first, then president. So it'd be 2024 when I was president of the National League of Cities. But there is an interesting sense of, we all feel responsibility in these elected jobs. But in this particular one, it's 19,000 cities and towns out there. 19,000. Trying to capture the interest of that number is pretty incredible.
Well, that's wonderful.
We expect you to visit everyone during your years.
That's right.
That's
I thought Director Kozlowski was stopping when he said, "Is it true you're the only member on the board?" I thought that was the end of the sentence. I was a little concerned.
That would probably be okay also.
That would be empty. I kind of like that idea.
a little bit easier.
Well, we could offer to help you, and each of us take maybe 1,000 cities or something.
Spread out, yeah.
All right, so appreciate that. Great news. And I really want to, first of all, say thank you to you all for stepping up and having some really robust conversation about the housing challenge discussion that happened earlier this month at our committee meetings. As we look at trying to address making sure that we have more housing in our communities, what are the tools that we have? How can we do this? So I heard that you all had some great ideas. And so I want to hear from our chairs, and they know that I'm going to ask them to share, but I want to hear from our committee chairs and have them share with us some of the feedbacks and the ideas that you all brought together. And I think we'll be able to, I don't know if we have that all together as of yet, but we'll be able to share that with everyone. Why don't we go ahead? I'm looking at faces here. Let's start with Director Zaragoza. You're the Policy and Innovation Chair. If you want to share with us some of the thoughts that your team had, and then we'll move on to the other committee chairs.
Yeah, excuse me, absolutely. And I apologize. I'm still, this is like going on week 3, I think, of my cold. So my voice isn't where it should be. But no, we had a really good discussion on housing policies. And I wanted to single out one, and because it goes back to something that I've been kind of harping on, which is really a path towards home ownership. So I'm going to put my vice chair on the spot here a little bit to kind of give, I wanted Mike to give just a background on what the city of Folsom did. I thought was a really interesting idea for affordable housing, but also on a path to home ownership. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of background on what Folsom did. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, the timing is actually good, Michael, because just this past Tuesday, we approved the sale of the piece of property. We had a piece of surplus property that once upon a time was a fire station / city hall annex / like 15 other things. And it happened to be kind of in our the fringes of our historic district in Folsom. And we put it up for sale, as you have to low-income housing developers. And one of them that approached us was Habitat for Humanity. And we ended up going ahead and striking a deal with them with some conditions attached to it of a program that they're trying to get off the ground in a number of places. But basically, we sold them the piece of property at a pretty steep discount to subsidize the project. But what they're going to do is chop it up into 5 regular house lots like exist across the street from the parcel. And then they're going to put 2 for sale units on each. So there'll be a primary residence and then a sort of tenant in common accessory dwelling unit at the back half of the property. And each will be able to be sold to a low income family that will be vetted by Habitat. And the way that it works with this Habitat program, they're going to structure the mortgage payment based on the regular market value of the house. But the payment that the family will make that moves into any of those units will be based on their income. And the remainder of it will be made up as a subsidy from Habitat. So Habitat will hold, the mortgage, the homeowner will pay, and as time goes by, they'll build up equity in that piece of property. So they'll be able to sell it at some point down the road. They'll have to sell it to Habitat, but at the point where they sell it, it will be sold at market value, and they'll get the benefit of the equity that they've built up over time. So Habitat's model, generally, people don't sell those houses because there isn't an alternative that's a better deal. So we're expecting it to be 10 kind of long-term homeowners that we're going to create out of this program.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Michael, anything else you want to share? That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Yeah.
Just in something that we did in Placerville, and again, I'll this is when Wendy was still on city council, and that was creating an overlay zone over in our existing areas, so that when the timing was right, we did have the opportunity to build affordable housing. And so we're on course now to build about 240 affordable housing units in the city of Placerville with those overlay zones, at least for 2 of them. One of them is we have surplus state property with at the fairgrounds that are going to be converted into affordable housing as well at the Armory. And so really it's the first affordable housing that's been built in Placerville for probably over 30 years. So it's a considerable amount of units that are coming on board, and those overlay zones really helped us meet our requirements for affordable housing. And I thought in an interesting way, in order to do that and to fulfill that, and as well as creating the environment when the timing was right for a developer to come in and to build those projects. So I thought that was a good example of something that was happening in our area. So just wanted to share those 2.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. And it looks like Director Thomas has a question. So Wendy, go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much. Great report. And Mike, I have a question for you. I reported on what you're doing to the county, and a couple of questions surfaced. So if each parcel has 2 houses on it, basically a main house and then an ADU, does the ADU have the ability to sell that to someone else, or does both houses run with the parcel?
Yeah, there's a mechanism called tenant in common, where they'll both have use of the parcel, but they can each sell the homes independently.
Really?
So in effect, the main house will own the parcel, and the secondary house will have a permanent easement to use the parcel, and they'll sell their house kind of like you would a condo,
Oh, that's interesting. So they can sell, but they can still retain.
Each of the units can be sold independently.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Great work. Look forward.
Yeah. It's a pretty novel thing, but don't overlook the fact that we took a piece of property that probably we could have sold on the open market for $700,000 and sold it to Habitat for $10,000. So we all had to kind of swallow hard on that one, but it's for a good cause. And we've owned that parcel long enough that it was probably only worth $10,000 when we first got it in the 50s. And we got an enormous amount of beneficial use out of it over time. So that's kind of how I personally internalized it, that we've wrung all the value out of it, and it's okay to pass it on for a low price.
Well, I applaud your investment in your community and the ability to, further affordable housing in California. I think that's quite remarkable. And our county was intrigued with that. So, and Michael, I want to say, great job on the 200 or plus affordable housing units in the 6 square miles called Placerville. That is meaningful and really well done. So thank you all.
Thank you, Director Thomas.
And, I love how we have to be creative, right? I think it requires a lot of creativity to address the needs that we have, because we can't just do it, build it and they will come type of thing. Let's go ahead to Director Soon, who is the chair of our Transportation Committee, to report out. Darren?
Thank you, Chair Gore. Good morning, everybody. First off, I just want to thank you, Chair Gore, for asking this question and prompting all of us to share all our learning experiences. I think this is really helpful. Similarly, I'm to what Mike was talking about earlier. I'm really applaud everybody for trying to find creative solutions to incentivize this. That's one common theme I found from all our committee members is we're all trying to incentivize within our jurisdictions rather than, trying to do these mandates that may provide short-term gains, but really hinder us long-term. So along those lines, a lot of us are looking at reducing parking requirements for projects. We're looking at our impact fee structures to make that more on a per square foot basis rather than a per unit basis. We're looking at our zoning requirements, how we can make those more flexible. I noticed in Lincoln, Paul Joyner talked about doing a land swap with folks as well. So it's a combination of things here, but all of it designed again to incentivize for more housing and build infill or encourage infill development. So that's all I have there, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Darren. And Director Gallardo, who's the chair of the Lunar Committee.
Thank you. I think the common theme that came up with all of us is that we are all looking at ways to address fees, not only our fees, but our water fees that may come from an outside agency or sewer fees, because I think we look as cities and counties, certainly we look at our own fees and what we can do. And then we realize that the others contribute just as much. So how can we communicate with them? Excuse me. So I think virtually every one of our organizations said we are looking at those opportunities. I can tell you, Rockland is actively in this communication. We had this discussion, a public hearing on Tuesday, and it will continue into January. One of the things, and hopefully I'll hear from this group, we brought up the process of perhaps a literal per square foot assessment, but we're not aware of anybody else that's doing a per square foot assessment. And so if anybody is or that's coming, I'd love to hear from you. But we have begun the discussion about ranges. So instead of charging our fees based on a single family home, this is it, looking at ranges to say perhaps if it's under 900 square feet, if it then up to 1,500, 2,200, I think 2,700 are the ones being discussed now, and there may be some adjustments there. So that's kind of the focus we have had in the conversation with the group. I know, for instance, in Loomis, Director Clark Kretz shared, they're looking at types of buildings that would be compatible with their rural lifestyle that might be more palatable to the community, including ADUs. Sac County, I know they mentioned they're doing the same thing that we are doing. And I believe it's Winters, was Director New? It was Director New that was saying they're looking at working for a builder to look for some low income projects right now. So I think it's a very active subject and at the top of our list. And I say, if anybody's doing per square foot, please reach out. And then most importantly, I have to take Chair Goer, thank you for doing such a fabulous job for us this year. And I really appreciate we had the opportunity to get some of us together that could be there to actually look at each other. Some of us for the first time face to face, and fabulous job. Thank you. Congratulations for a wonderful year.
Thank you very much, Jill. Let's see. So an opportunity for any of our directors to report out. If any of you all have a report or anything that you'd like to share with the group, happy to hear from you. Let us know. Director Lozano.
Yeah, I just wanted to report out real briefly. As I was meeting with our community development director this last week, he happened to receive a letter from HCD regarding our housing element, and it was denied and asked for more information, which is quite unusual from what I understand. I want to preface this by saying, you know, we worked with HCD all along the way. HCD seemed to take every moment of time that they had to respond, even up to this last 90-day period. And so I want to thank SACOG staff for taking our telephone call about this issue and promising to help along the way. So just if you haven't heard, my understanding is we're not the only jurisdiction that received this unprecedented letter. So just be aware that it's out there. I'm feeling a little frustrated, quite honestly, and it has to do with the fact that you know, we had these RENA numbers that were pretty off the charts, but taking the time to go through and work with HCD directly and with SACOG staff, and then at the end of the day for the state to come back and say, well, it's not quite good enough. And so I don't want to get into all the details of what the letter's about, but it certainly wanted to bring that to everyone's attention and maybe check in with staff just to see what might be coming down your way. So that's it. Thanks, Chair Gore.
Thank you, Rich, for sharing. I can only imagine how very frustrating, but I know we've got some great SACOG staff who can help, so that's a good thing. Director Bob. Speaking, Locklear, or did I, like maybe you took your hand down?
Okay. Yes. Okay, I'm back. Thank you, Chair Gore. Thank you for your leadership. Just kind of want to share what's going on in Live Oak, that over the last about 5 years, we have built 82 high-grade apartments for people that need assistance from the government. And these are really nice units, but only one mistake that we made was we put them right next to the most beautiful houses. It just worked out like that. We have a 32 unit project that's starting for the senior citizens. And it's also government assistant program. And we have another project coming on. It's a 50 units for farm labor workers or anybody that qualifies for that project. It'd be a little bit like self-help, where you build equity while you're working to help out building the house. And then there's a 10 unit project that be coming on that Habitat for Humanity been working on it for the last about 4 years. Looking forward to seeing that soon. And then we had 100 unit that KB left. They didn't want to build on those. And right before the Paradise Fire, we talked them into coming back with a little bit discount on the permit. And then that fire happened and everything got sold within 1 year. And then we have 170 units by Kebihonians that wanted to start building a year ago. And they wanted discounts, so we give them $7,200 some odd dollars per permit to build those houses in 2 years. And that 7,200 was good for anybody in the city that also wanted to build a new unit, that they would get the same discount, and that would be good till end of this year. And it looks like that the KVs are almost about 150 units in there, and there are only about 20 units to go. So everything is moving real well. I'm still looking forward to a little bit of more balance as far as the affordable housing, because our area depends a lot on farm labor, and we can build all these high price houses, but we won't get any farm labor in there. And we need to keep focus on building some more affordable units so we can balance out the people coming in from San Francisco or Sacramento or bigger city and buying these bigger houses, and also building house for people that actually, you know, do a lot of labor in the area. And these are the backbone of our community, because we're totally farm labor. I mean, without that, we can pick our peaches, or we can harvest our prunes or walnuts or kiwis. So, and we need to just keep a balance. So our kids that are have jobs now that can hopefully can afford a house and stay in our community. And like I said, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Director Gog. I really appreciate you sharing what's happening in Live Oak.
My incredible compliments to your leadership this year. This has been a remarkable, unprecedented year. 12 new board members of 31, all brand new and all virtual over Zoom. And it would be so easy in some ways for this board and for this agency, for that to be, especially if it's all remote, for people not to feel a sense of camaraderie, a sense of partnership, a sense of belonging. And I think you've done a remarkable job to make people feel welcome, to make them feel included. And that discussion that you all just had on your Chair's Challenge, and people have recognized this already, believe me, you know, it's just a wonderful thing to hear that, right? That's why you're here. Yeah, this may be one of the few places you come and you're with fellow colleagues across county lines. But to hear how you're all tackling these challenges, to hear you sharing solutions together, that's a big part of why we come to work every day, and the only reason that we can be successful as a region, as a board. So again, I just want to thank you, Chair Gore, for your remarkable leadership this year. I know we'll get a more formal chance to recognize you as you hand the gavel over in January, but really, from myself, from all of our staff, thank you for your leadership. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, and thank you and your team. It really is, this is a great organization, and it has been a lot of fun, actually, this last year. So I appreciate you all making it a little bit more fun and engaging. So with that, we have our last couple of items that are receive and file, and you can take a look at those, but it is hopefully time for a little bit of R&R and rest for folks during the holidays. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas holiday season, and we get a SACOG break a little bit. We'll break until our next board meeting on Thursday, January 20th. With that, have a great holiday season, everyone. Thanks so much. And we are adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.